inside Thursday night. How's it going? Alright, strip back, good crack, multi-trade podcast. Share the knowledge you know, help to make our sector grow. Everybody's learning from experts and the journeymen. Insights.
Do you know what? I've a new found respect for any tradie, spark, plumber, whoever it is, who's had to work up in an attic during that heat wave that we've had over the last couple of weeks. We've been doing a bit of prep for an attic installation job that's getting done in my house, and I swear to God, I must have added about 20 litres of sweat to the rafters up there over the last week or so.
I've been telling you for years how bad it is working in the attics. You probably have not been in an attic since 2010, 2011. But look, that's the industry. You went down the commercial route, so fair dues to you for that. But I stuck at it and punished myself for years up in the attics. I'm still up in them, but yeah, look, at least now in a couple of months or a couple of weeks, you'll be up in a nicely ventilated attic space, and it'll all be worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And look, for anybody who's still got to go up there, still got to crawl around and do their bits and bobs over the next few weeks, we'll see us on the other side of this summer, because
Hopefully
there's cold weather on the way. It is Ireland all the same. But look, it's another episode. It's season 7, episode 3 of Insight, the Strip Back podcast. I'm Stephen Buckley.
I'm Keith Delahan.
And this podcast is coming to you through our sponsor, Robust Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company.
And also in association with Snickers Workwear Ireland and Velocity Pro Gear.
We've got another good episode coming up this week. We've got male mentor and entrepreneur, influencer, and I'm sure there's another few things we can add to the list, but we'll go by Gavin Meenan, who we announced would be on season 6, but unfortunately, due to prior engagements on Gavin's end, he's a busy man. He had to pull out, but he stuck to his word, and he's travelled halfway across Ireland to join us in the studio here tonight. Yeah,
no, delighted to get him on. Obviously, we were gutted previously when he couldn't make it, but we stuck at it and we persisted, which I hope he'll be proud of us for doing, and finally got him on in the end of it. So it's going to be a great interview.
But before that, we've got the overload segment, and we like to keep it trades based. We've got another entrepreneur joining us on this episode. We've got Neo Mosudisa. He's based in the UK. He's come up with an ingenious product, I think, that has really closed the gap on a safety issue that might have been overlooked for many years within the industry, and I think it's something interesting that we can talk about.
Yeah, and us too as electricians, we have looked at the product, we've seen the product, we've seen its applications, and we just think it could be a very essential part of an electrician's toolbox or van to, I suppose, promote safety and, you know, lock off every corner of an installation.
Yeah, look, I guess we'll get Neo on and we'll find out what Spurlok is all about.
Let's jump into it.
This podcast is coming to you from the Robust headquarters in Dublin, Ireland.
Robust are the world's leading LED lighting company.
So make sure you head over and download the My Robust app and see what they have on offer. Look, thanks for joining us anyway, Neo. It's a big thing for myself and Keith to be able to, you know, get talking to lads on the other side of the pond and seeing what's going on over in the UK and the types of the innovations that are going on over there with entrepreneurs like yourself. So just want to welcome you onto the podcast, and thanks for coming on so late as well.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm privileged. This is officially my first Irish podcast, so I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we can find out a bit more about my story, and likewise a bit more about what you guys do as well.
Well, we're the only podcast in Ireland based on the trades anyway, only good ones anyway. But Thanks a million for jumping on with us, and looking forward to diving into your product. And and look, it looks really good. So,
Like, I guess like what we usually do on the podcast is try to give our listeners a bit of a look into who the person is as well, and not just the product. So what we usually do is try to take people back a little bit and maybe, find out a little bit about where you're from and where you grew up and how you got into the industry yourself. So I guess we'll start back to day dot. Where were you born?
Yeah, so I was born in Birmingham, City Road Hospital. It's in Winson Green. So I grew up in Handsworth, this little multicultural area of Birmingham, just right outside of the town centre, not too far from the town centre. So I grew up there most of my life, and then moved to Handsworth Wood. But I've always spent my life in and around sort of, Birmingham suburbs. I had a great childhood, loving parents. I lived with my mum and my sister. So your house full of girls. So I was like sort of had to be the man of the house and learn the
yeah.
ropes and all those things there. But yeah, I had a good childhood. Yeah, I can't complain. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm privileged.
What was school life like for you?
Yeah, school. I enjoyed school. I've always been relatively sociable, quite popular, but academically, I never quite grasped onto the structure that school has in terms of the way that so intelligence is measured, I guess. So I wouldn't necessarily say I was an academic, and I thrived in the environment, but I always felt that I had
Yeah.
more to offer than school sort of. If you read my school reports, you wouldn't necessarily think that I had much under the bonnet, if you know what I mean. But um, but I always felt differently, which was good, and my mum was always felt differently as well. But yeah, I enjoyed school, but I think yeah, it did probably dampen my ambitions a bit, because I felt a bit limited from what I was told that I could become. And I learned that that's not a reality. But yeah, it was a good experience even just to learn that.
Yeah, I guess like would you have had subjects that you would have maybe geared towards maybe later on in school that would have brought you down a bit more of a technical route rather than somebody who was going to be sitting behind a desk all day?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I didn't have a clue when I left school. I left school, and I had like some GCSEs, and I went to college. I did English language, I did graphic design, and I did psychology in
They're
my
all very
first
different.
year. So that tells you all you need to know about my how much I knew about what I wanted to be at that stage. But the second year, after I basically failed that my first year. I don't say failed. I learnt a lot, but I didn't necessarily progress into those fields. I went to engineering college, and that's really where the engineering journey started. Although I've always been an engineer. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but my granddad was an engineer. He used to build buses, essentially, design buses for Birmingham, Travel West Midlands. So from a young age, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. When I went to school, I was basically told that I wasn't good enough at maths to be an engineer. But then when I came out of college the first year, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go and give this a go. And then from there, I haven't looked back.
Were you a thinker or a curious child growing up? Would there have been anything that would have led you down the engineering path, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I've always had an obsession with how things work. So, from as far back as I can remember, when I was like probably like 3 or 4 years old, when I'm walking down the road with my mum, if I see something that's shiny or that's got like a bit of a mechanism to it, I'll pick it up, whether it be a spark plug or whether it be like an old electrical fitting or something, out of a skip. I just had a fascination with these sorts of objects, and they didn't really have any purpose, but for me, I was just interested in them. And as I've sort of gone on in life, that curiosity has just stayed with me. And even to this day, you know, I think as electricians or tradespeople, we like to understand how things work, and there's a
Yeah.
big part in that, because there's another level of appreciation you get with that as well.
Do you find that, like, you see a lot of, especially even with apprentices as well within the electrical industry, the way they mention about the likes of maths and maths not being their strong point, but when they solely focus on, say, a career objective, like, so say, like with the likes of engineering, when you can actually match up the mathematics with the industry that you're looking to get into, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more enjoyable to learn it, I think, compared to, say, sitting in a classroom and learning maths and not knowing what you're going to utilize that maths in. Say, like, you know, the likes of us, it would have been like, you know, Ohm's law and everything like else. We wouldn't have had a clue what we were doing if we weren't getting into the electrical end of it. But the likes of engineering, it's obviously prominent when it comes to certain aspects of your role.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I think for me, I always look at it as with anything you do in life, with anything that you want to achieve, it always starts with why. If you don't have a why, it's going to be difficult. And I think the problem is that like when you're in school, you need a motivation because if you're going to try and understand something which seems complex, you need a reason to do that. You need a reason to put the work in. And for someone like myself, I'm someone who I need a challenge. I don't just thrive off a challenge. I need a challenge in order to overcome for me to really be interested. So like you say, if it's not tangible and I can't relate it to anything that's going to benefit me, I don't see much purpose in it. And it's just I'm still like that now. I can do like complex mathematics and design like potential dividers or electronic circuit boards to an extent, but that's only because I'm interested in how those things work and I'm willing to actually learn the theory behind it. But if I'm not interested in, I'm not going to learn. I think that's where we could probably look at doing something different in the education system, where we can try and inspire people to learn
Yeah.
things that they're interested in, as opposed to just giving them a curriculum and saying, learn this.
Yeah, well, that's like we tackle that kind of issue most weeks here with, you know, people coming out of school and, you know, trying to pick a trade or pick a profession to go into. Like even in terms of engineering, like I wouldn't know much about what that entails. So for any of our listeners, what does the day, I suppose, in the life of your background of engineering, what's that look like?
So essentially, I started off in a steel factory. So what I was a maintenance apprentice. So you'd have production lines that would produce different types of steel bars, basically. So if you think of nuts and bolts, they're essentially made out of like a hexagon piece of bar, which is made in
Okay.
a factory, this type of factory that I used to work in. So what would happen is if you'd have a machine that would break down, if it was a mechanical issue, you'd have some mechanical fitters who would go and fix that machine. And if it was an electrical issue, then it would be my responsibility, or I was learning to have the responsibility of fixing those electrical issues. So I was an industrial electrician. Obviously, when the machines were running, we were sort of sitting around, you know, drinking tea and learning other things. But when the machines weren't running, we were either attending a breakdown or we're doing an installation, or you know, my job was so diverse. I could be um, changing a three-phase motor inverter drive the one day, and then the next day I could be changing the hand dryer in the bogs because they're packed up. So it's yeah, it was really diverse, but it's essentially an industrial electrician.
Mm. And how important is the likes of safe work plans and processes in those type of roles? I would have had about 5 years of working in a semiconductor industry factory here in Ireland, so I know the processes. I know the concepts of, you know, the downtime, the green times, the red times, and, you know, when machines are down, it's all go. But the likes of, say, Keith or anybody else working in domestic, it's easy just to pick up your tools and go and do a job, like, and you do your planning and your processes. But when it comes to the likes of those factories, I guess there's a lot more dangers that you can think of around your job,
Yeah.
like secondary dangers around the actual role that you're actually working on.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think that's exactly right. So, like, I attribute a lot of my consciousness and awareness about electrical safety and good practices from essentially working in the steel industry, a heavy industry, because when I started my apprenticeship, I was working with guys that had fingers missing, they had hands that were like just crippled because they got stuck in parts of machines. I'd heard stories about people having hot bars go straight through their ankle and coming out the other side. So I really understood the significance of safety, and also the procedures were such where before I went to do any job, I'd have to fill out a mini risk assessment. Now, at the time, I used to think to myself, like, I'm changing a bolt. Why do I need to fill out this risk assessment of what could happen? This is just ridiculous. But then as I've sort of got older, I've realized that me doing that for like 3 or 4 years, automatically now, whenever I go to a job, I'm doing a mental risk assessment, understanding, you know,
Mm.
what the risks would be. trying to think of some mitigations on how I could basically try and, reduce the likelihood of those risks occurring. And it's those good practices that have made me essentially safe and also allowed me to think at a high level where I'm looking out for other people's safety as well. So yeah, you're exactly right. The dangers there are significant, but also as an electrician, as an electrical worker, we face similar dangers day in day out. 240 volts, 230 volts. That is enough to kill you, and it doesn't take a lot to suffer a serious electrical injury, even in a domestic or a commercial setting as well. So I think I'm trying to carry those good practices that I learned in the steel industry through into the domestic, commercial, anyone who's electrical sort of. It's an all-encompassing approach essentially.
You'd welcome that, wouldn't you?
No, 100%. I like totally agree with everything that you've said there, and just having the awareness. But like in terms of electrical hazards, it's very, very easy, and it's probably very common that people, see things that they know are hazardous and do nothing about it. But you actually went one step further and actually did something about it, and obviously the seed of Spurlok was created. Could you just run us through the situation that like enticed you to do that?
Yeah, of course. So I was working on the afternoon shift in the steel factory the one day, and one of the it was a hot day. It was really hot in there because we had all the machines running, and we all had to wear these overalls. So essentially, what we had to do is the lads on the afternoon shift, they love their cold water, so they'd all queue up by the water cooler and get their cups before shift. One of the gentlemen received an electric shock off the water cooler. Standard procedure, anyone receives an electric shock, he had to go straight to hospital. We had to isolate that piece of equipment, and it was supplied by a fuse spur unit. Now, at the time, I asked my manager and I said, what do I use to isolate this electrical fitting? I've got, a padlock for a main panel isolator, or a miniature circuit breaker isolator, but there was nothing for a fuse spur unit. And he essentially said, just take this piece of string and this bit of paper and just write "do not use." And I thought to myself, like, it's a solution, but it's not the solution, because
Yeah.
I always sort of been quite clued on with the regs and understand like provisions for like locking things in the off position and using padlocks and also tagging out as well. So I knew that this wasn't going to be a solution going forward, and then that just basically got the gears turning in my head to think, right, how can I create something that can solve this problem and hopefully save some lives.
Yeah, well, like in terms of, the isolation, it's so quick as well. Like me and Stephen maybe thinking as electricians, like, yeah, we open up the spur, we disconnect it, put it into blocks, then go back to the MCB, the RCBO, whatever is controlling it, disconnect it from there. Like, think about how long that takes to actually get that done. Where if you have one of these lockout kits, it can be done in literally, what, 3 or 4 seconds?
Plus, like if you got a general services circuit running through a factory like that, or running through an office block like that, that could be feeding four or
2 or
five
3
units.
things, yeah.
You don't want to be turning off the whole circuit. You don't want to be locking out a whole circuit off one unit. That could potentially be an issue. So, like having a device like that can literally isolate at the point, of the spur is amazing. But just taking it back from that moment there and having that concept, how much time, effort, long nights, planning goes into having the actual mental concept into actually having a physical product in your hand?
This is a question that I wish I had the words to express, but I don't think words would do it justice. So you can imagine, like 2016, I had that experience, and I've only just really launched this product. So that just shows you how long it's taken. Um, there has been so many learning curves for me in terms of like there's designing a product, there's understanding about designing for manufacture, there's understanding about intellectual property, and then there's understanding about business, which is just a world in its own. Like, a lot of people don't realize that like behind any product or service, there's so many different moving sort of like gears that have to churn to make things happen and make things profitable as well. We're not profitable yet because I've put an awful lot of resource, time, effort, and money. This is always going to be something for the future, but It's incredibly resource intensive. It's incredibly demanding on a skills level and a development level. But at the same time, when you see people engaging with the product, when you see people buying the product, and you see people improving their working practices, and reducing the chances of them getting injured, essentially for me, it's a win. If I could just have maybe one or two people that were saved by using Spurlock, then all of my effort would have been worth it, whether it ever becomes profitable or not, which I'm sure it will. But it's all about trying to save lives. So that's essentially.
And generally, anyone that's being introduced to it, has it been received well?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I think we've had a massive level of support from various industries. So the electrical industry, everyone that's seen the product, everyone that I've engaged with, have basically said, I don't understand why this product hasn't been out there and used before. Um, Also, I've had a massive reception from the gas engineer community, because obviously all boilers are supplied by fuse spare units. Well, most boilers are supplied by fuse spare units, and the gas engineers have to follow the similar safe isolation procedures that we do as well. So that was something I learned along the way. I was at the NEC installer show a few weeks back, and we only had a small stand, but the amount of traffic we had coming through, people, if they're either buying or they're interested, or they want to find out, about getting them in for their training colleges and academies. The support and the reception was overwhelming. But again, it's about pushing forward, getting more people aware. So we've still got a long way to go, but so far the reception has been great.
I presume it puts a lot of power back in the contractor's hand as well. Like in terms of, just when you mentioned the gas engineers, when they go out to do a maintenance call or an install, and they find something that they're not happy with, or something that could cause harm to the customer, they've got the added tool now that they can lock out that spur unit. And like most people, yourself, you tell them it's unsafe, and there's kind of no way of like getting the disconnection done without having to do all the disconnections at the fuse board or in the fuse or in the fuse unit itself. But now you can just lock it off and tag it, and you have identification there as well to say.
I'm sure even insurance companies would be delighted to see stuff like that as well. You know what I mean? Because any type of devices and products out there, like you were mentioning there, that might be of a danger to a household, fire risks and stuff like that, to be able to lock them off until they're actually properly maintained.
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning there, not having people using something that could potentially cause a fire risk and death is it's going to be, like you said, well received by engineers, well received by, I believe, training facilities would be silly not to be able to take these on board and actually provide them and give them to apprentices to use out on site as well. And then like that, the likes of trade insurance companies and all as well, even home insurances and rental units and council estates and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's the market's endless.
Yeah.
We'll be seeing you in a few years driving around the Bentley, I think.
Once I broke even, I can maybe look at something like a nice new Ford Focus or something. No Bentley just yet. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things we say with Spurlock, it's safety in your hands, and that's essentially what the product is. Another great point that you've touched on that I don't think people always think about is that as electrical professionals, we're more aware of electrical hazards than most people are. Most people within the household, most people who aren't trained and competent in, best electrical practices, or even just have a fundamental understanding of electricity. If you're in a position where you know that something is dangerous, having the ability to make that appliance safe essentially protects your customers as well. And I think that's something which is important, because no one wants anyone getting hurt under our watch. We don't want ourselves to be hurt, but we definitely don't want the people that we're serving to be hurt as well. So I think having the ability to do that, even if you don't necessarily use it every day, it can only be a great thing.
Yeah, no, great point there.
Well, look, I guess for, the industry as a whole as well, seeing progression like this and seeing people like yourself actually coming up with an idea that, you know, the industry might feel that it can get quite stagnant and that there's no other, you know, solutions out there. And it's refreshing to see the likes of that and the likes of yourself coming up with ideas. I know it's years in the making, but sometimes, you know, good things are well worth the wait. Like, so fair play to you. But for anybody that was looking to get it now, I know you've launched it now recently. Can they get it through your website, or can they get it through wholesalers, or what way do they buy it?
Yeah, so currently we're on Spurlok.com. So yeah, that's Spurlok.com. We exclusively retailing through Spurlok.com at the minute, trying to build up that organic support and relationship with our customers, and then we'll probably look at wholesalers and distributors down the line. But yeah, Spurlok.com. So that's for the UK and Ireland. You can get it at Spurlok.com essentially.
Brilliant.
I will definitely get a couple in and do a review on it for you, no problem.
Is ship to Ireland?
Yeah, we'll ship to Ireland, no problem. Also, I've got to give a special mention out to Richard Cockerline as well. He's been a great ambassador in support of the products and what we're doing with Spurlok. And he's got a special discount code, which is IUP15. If you use that at the checkout, you'll get 15% off.
I've no idea who he is, actually.
Richard. He's
Good friend of the show.
I love that. I was only laughing. I seen the discount code and I just thought it's perfect for Richard. Brilliant. Who came up with that one?
Oh, you can only guess it was him.
Yeah. Listen, Leo, it's been an absolute pleasure. But look, we won't let you go without adding a song to our Season 7 Spotify playlist. If you were to add something onto it that would represent you, what would it be?
I'm gonna say a song. It's a South African song. It's called "Fetch Your Life." It's by an artist called Prince KB, featuring Msaki, and I can send that to you afterwards because you
Please do.
yeah. You might struggle to pronounce it, but you'll enjoy the song.
Brilliant.
I will look forward to hearing it. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Leo.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm much appreciated.
Brilliant.
Best of luck.
Class. This is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robus Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company.
And also brought to you in association with Snickers Workwear Ireland and Velocity Pro Gear.
Gavin, thanks for taking the long drive from one side of Ireland to the other side of Ireland to join myself and Keith on the podcast. I know we had a bit of a failed go at it last season, but we finally got there.
Yeah, all good things come to those who wait, and persevere. So it's an honour to be here. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, really appreciate it. It's kind of in line with your mentality, just persevere and you'll get what you want in the end. So
yeah.
Thanks a million for making the journey.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite.
What we usually do is we usually go back with a lot of lads and give people a bit of an idea of what their sort of lifestyle and certain things that might have molded them into who they are today happened to them when they were younger. But just to start off myself, I'll take it a little bit different because I've watched a lot of your videos, and I only said it to Keith when I throw on, say, a video within the first maybe 3 to 5 seconds, like I'm hit with this emotion from you, where it encaptures you, it drags you in, like, and it gets you listening. And I think that sort of relates to a male's psyche, where the stuff that you're saying on your stories or your posts, we don't hear too much from other men because we don't sort of release that emotion.
It's very relatable, though.
It is very relatable. And it's just, how important do you think it is just in this day and age for men to be emotional and actually share their emotion? Because I just think it's something that is lacking right now but needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, even saying that, there's some men listening to this and they're cringing in terms of sharing emotions. And there is a perception there that sharing emotions is obviously a weak thing, it's a soft thing, and just get on with it, be a man, and act tough, stay strong. This sort of Goggins approach of stay hard. And yeah, that might serve you for a certain period of time, such as it served me for a period of time, and I stood strong and I persevered and I pushed through, and then only to realize that the pain that I was running away from is I'm never going to outrun it, and it will eventually catch up with you. And the only way to overcome that pain is to actually allow yourself to finally feel it. And obviously that's a daunting experience for a lot of people, a lot of men especially, because I believe that many of us have been silenced in society through having to act and behave in a certain way. And we're looking up to our fathers as young men as well. And these hardened individuals who just get up every day, go to work and grind it out and hustle. And we admire, this persona of masculinity, but we're not showing the other side of it, where this man was also quite lonely at times. This man was also suffering with grief at times. This man was also sad and angry at times. And he perhaps would have used work as his escapism or alcohol or something else.
Yeah.
Again, just bottled up. And we're looking up to this as young boys, and this is the model that we're following. And we do follow it for a period of time. And that was the way it was for me for quite some time, until I lost the very thing that I leaned on for this status or for this meaning of being a man. I lost the job. And it was probably the first time in my life that I felt completely useless. And my daughter was only young at the time. And I remember, during the days I'd be taking her for a walk in her buggy and walking through town with her. And I just felt as if I was an absolute bum, not that I wasn't trying to get another job. I wasn't trying to make ends meet, but I was struggling to get another job, and at the same time wasn't in a position exactly to move away because I had a young child.
Yeah.
And my missus is from Lithuania, so there was a lack of support there. I was in Sligo, my parents in Donegal, so all of these little factors came into play. But it really, really broke me down at that time. And at the same time, I wasn't sharing this with anybody. I wasn't telling anyone about these struggles or difficulties I was having. So we bottle them up, and then we find ways to release these emotions in an unhealthy way, usually. And these men that I'm speaking about who are cringing when we mention expressing your emotions are suppressing their emotions. They're pushing them down.
It's not healthy at all, is it?
Yeah, with these men too, just as I was, are most likely going to express those in unhealthy ways. And for me, that was abusive alcohol usage, I would call it, a very aggressive approach with alcohol, where I would just drink and I didn't care what would happen to me, how I would end up during the night, and just take me to the point of oblivion. I don't care. Just to completely wipe out the memories or wipe out the feeling of pain or anxiety or fears that I would have had, unknown to me at the time.
Yeah.
And then porn was a massive thing for me as well. So that was something that was more or less with me from a young age, and of course never spoken about in a country that deems sex and intimacy or even porn as a very shameful act.
Yeah.
So again, shamed into silence and just keeping all these things to myself until eventually, there's a life altering experience that causes you to wake the fuck up. And this is what the wake up call was. And there was several of those that happened over the years. And most men, as I said, if they are continuing to suppress those emotions and express them in destructive ways, well, destructive means you're going to destroy some part of yourself or some part of your life, some part of your relationship. You're going to lose somebody or something you love. You're going to lose yourself and find yourself in a complete state of isolation or loneliness.
Did you know that you were hurting other people at the time, or were you hurting other people other than yourself with those obsessions?
My partner would have suffered, for sure, because I wasn't present. And it was very much, again, unintentional, but looking back, it was very much a selfish act on my behalf, where it was just me thinking, poor me, I haven't got a job, poor me, I can't find a job, poor me, I'm with the baby at home here all day, and poor me, I don't have money. poor me waiting for someone to come and save me, waiting for somebody to help me out. But who's to help me out if I never ask? Who's to offer me an opportunity if I never go looking for it myself or never created myself? So she did suffer, yeah, for sure, because she felt that lack of support. And during those years, I was so volatile with my emotions that I left the relationship twice. Not once, but twice. I left in the earlier years whenever Ariana was only a few months old. I just couldn't take it anymore. And
was that self-preservation?
It was self-preservation, yeah. I was protecting myself from many things at the time, perhaps. Protecting myself from the fear of becoming a father for the first time at 26, when I still felt as though I was a little boy in a man's body. And I hadn't processed any of my own shit from the past and was terrified of that prospect. And of course, not believing that I could actually step up to the plate and be a strong and dependable father for this baby, especially then when you lose your job and the very thing that you use for a sense of value in your life is taken from you. And then I felt completely devalued. I felt completely useless. Now I have nothing to lean on in order for me to feel strong and adequate as a father and as a partner. And then there's also the preservation of allowing yourself to go all in on a relationship and holding myself back and not having those difficult conversations with my wife or my wife now, but partner at the time, and opening up about what I was struggling with and how I was finding things difficult and just pretending and acting. And a lot of us men, I think, deserve a lot of Oscars for our performances. Put on a very convincing act every single day, and that's what I was doing. But beneath the surface, I was breaking down, and obviously this was breaking down the relationship, and that type of energy that I was bringing into the relationship was obviously affecting her as well, because she could feel my absence until, I basically ran away.
Does a lot of that stem from your idea of the stereotypical man growing up? Like, what was life like for you growing up with, family life and stuff like that in the town?
Yeah, well, my dad, I would look to as probably the hardest worker that I've ever known, and it's somewhat of a badge of honor that us men are. I certainly took his work ethic on board, but at the same time, when you look at it, there's an unhealthy balance there where work consumes your entire life, and if there's no other part of yourself that you can see as valuable, then you put all your value into something that gives you a sense of value, such as your business, your work, the sense of validation or praise you receive from others, the money in the bank, the car you drive, all these things that say, okay, I'm good enough now because I have these things. And my father, of course, did his very best for all of us, and I did actually have that very brief conversation with him quite recently in the sense of helping him to understand that I actually feel grateful for everything he's done for me in my life, and that I do not hold any anger or resentment towards him, which I did for a period of time. And that I have nothing but love and respect for him. And that took me quite some time to build up the courage and ultimately to build me up to the point where I could step up as a man and speak to him from a man-to-man perspective instead of me always succumbing to the little boy in front of the father. But anyway, going back to that, I'm surrounded with men who are absolute grinders, and I was living next door to my grandparents' house when I was up to the age of 3 years of age, and in that house, my grandfather lived there, and my uncle lived there as well. And again, two hard grafters. My grandfather was a carpenter. My uncle was helping him out. My dad was working in a bar every single hour he could get, sometimes 6-7 days a week. So, and then also watching and absorbing how much value he took from work. He'd come home from work and he would speak about work, and from a sense of pride and accomplishment, I say, okay, that's what I need to do.
Do you think there's an opposite side to the coin with that as well? Do you think as a young boy, seeing the amount of time and effort that a man puts into his work and the pressures that come along with that as well in order to, maintain a household and support a family. Do you think that also then put pressure then on the next generation coming up then to try and, reach that same level
or go further?
Yeah, it
Go
sets
further,
the bar,
yes.
sets the expectation. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, I think, what we're always trying to do, maybe on a subconscious level. We're trying to reach the expectation of our fathers, or we want our fathers to be proud of us. And
100%.
our sense of pride is tied up in our performance for a lot of men. So I talk about this performance-based esteem quite often, and it's, instead of self-esteem in the sense of, yeah, I know I'm good enough, and because I know I'm good enough, then I present this best version of me with everything that I do. I know I have the talents and skills, and I have, the intelligence, and I have all these things to give, instead of, oh fuck, okay, I need to do all this in order to feel as though I'm good enough. And it's sort of, I believe, indoctrinated into the type of system that we've been filtered into when you go to school and you get the great mark or great result and you go home, or that the teacher gives you, your golden star, or gives you praise, validation at home, praise and validation, and all these things come under the umbrella of love and esteem. And then there's the opposite, where you don't get the good result, or things don't go your way, or you don't have this great performance on the football pitch or whatever else. And then you're met with disappointment. You're met with,
Not good enough.
We're putting all this effort in and you're not working hard enough. And it's more our interpretation of those events that cause a problem then as well, because it's, okay, I'm only as good as how I perform, in the sense of I'm only loved and I'm only valued if I meet those expectations. So I think that chase is quite common for a lot of men. And it's something that eventually, some men most of the men that I work with have actually reached that point where they've achieved everything they could possibly achieve. The wife, the kids, the car, the home, the money in the bank, the CEO position, or their own business. And then they're reaching out to me and go, I still feel
not enough.
lacking here. I still feel like there's something just missing. I say, yeah, because you've just been trying to find yourself out here all the time and trying to find this out there, instead of paying attention to what's lacking in here. So then we begin to flip it around and change the narrative in the interpretations that they took on board based on these experiences in the past, when they were told you're only as good as your results, or you're only loved and validated due to your performances. So that's a big thing. And again, that's something that was coming up for me, certainly, whenever I lost my job. And
I think we all got a small taste of that during COVID. I know when, everything shut down, the first month, I'd say, I really struggled with the first month, because I would have been working flat out 7 days or 6-7 days a week, and then it just stopped. I remember being overwhelmingly upset and not feeling worth anything, even though everyone was off. Because from going to being a provider and working for the family, and then that just be pulled from underneath you, So I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of losing the job and then trying to get back on the ladder, praying for the day we were allowed back into work. It's crazy.
It's like, now who am I?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you realize, oh, I'm only a job, or I'm only this trade.
Yeah.
I'm only
That's
this,
what it was.
and then so that's
So what am I supposed to do?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think taking and again, it's when those difficulties arise, we often want to push them away, or we often want to again fix it by finding another job, or by whatever, chasing the next accomplishment, or getting after the next challenge, instead of stopping and asking, okay, why am I struggling with the lack that I have in this external world? Because the lack that I have out here is actually bringing up the sense of lack that I have in here. So it's also what I say in terms of your life is nothing more than your beliefs projected outwards. So if you're viewing your life from an outside perspective, and it's not exactly where you want to be, or how you want to be, or it's not exactly the type of scene or the type of day or life that you would call fulfilling, then you have to understand there's something in here that's not being fulfilled. There's something here that's not being filled, perhaps. There's a sense of lack that's being driven towards this possible emptiness that you feel in your life. So, yeah, it was an interesting time in the COVID. So, but it's
like a runaway train, like when you're on that journey of just working, and then it gets pulled from you. Like, it's almost like it was, put who you are under the microscope. Like you said, it just stops, and you're kind of left sitting there saying, "But what else am I other than
under
my
the
work?"
microscope to the most closest people around you as well, which is the most, I think, daunting for people to be looking at you, because you could spend most of your day, nearly most of your working week away from your family.
Yeah.
So to actually allow them in to see who you are.
Now you're being completely exposed.
Yeah, for 8 hours of the day at home.
It's making or breaking you. Like, it really is. Like, some people really, really struggle. Like, where I had maybe 3 weeks where I really struggled, and then I kind of opened up and said, "Right, that's not too bad now."
Yeah. It was a sort of a make or break process, wasn't it, for a lot of people?
Yeah, 100%.
Some people never went back to work, or some people just found a new lease of life or a new path. Yeah. So
new pathway.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously there, like, the early life, the childhood, and the emotions that you have as a kid growing up. But how important is it, or maybe reword it? Can you remember the last time you cried as an adult? Or how important is it even to cry as an adult, to allow that emotion out as a male adult?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's quite an interesting answer as well, because it's something that, wouldn't have been frequent in my life at all. I mean, I've been through some traumatic experiences in my life, and tears would be infrequent or sporadic. And I remember one such event. Now, tears would never have been part of my expression even as a kid. Yeah. I'm trying to think back, but I do, like, the memory that comes to me in terms of like real tears and a real release of emotions that I didn't truly appreciate at the time was when I was involved in the car accident when I was 18. And that was a day that changed everything, really. I was 18 at the time, and I had just finished my first week in college, and I was doing a sports science degree in Derry. Came back, picked up a few of my friends with my dad's car. There was 4 of us in the car, and then I took a road that I've never taken before. One of those experiences.
Yeah.
And then coming back on the road, crashed into this oncoming car, just took the corner too fast. It was a big beast of a car that I was driving. And the lady who was driving us, she died instantly in the scene. And she had her son in the back. Now, I've told this story many times, and I've worked through this painful experience through therapy and through retreats and through many different modalities. So I can speak about it with a level of peace and love now, really, understanding that it was out of my control what happened in that experience, and everything that happened afterwards as well had to happen in such a way in order for me to truly forgive myself for not just the accident, but truly forgive myself for everything that happened in my life up to that point, and to feel the sense of power of people in that experience as well. And when I mention the power of people, I'm really feeling and thinking about her family, who were so welcoming and so caring and so loving at that time. They invited me into their house for the wake. They were very kind and very generous. And I'm sure they had their moments where, there was anger and sadness towards me and towards what happened. But that was really a turning point for me in identifying how important it is to have people who support you and love you, even in the most difficult times of your life. And leaving the scene of the accident that evening, I obviously in a state of complete shock and confusion, and I envisioned going back to the house that evening, and it being a simply empty house, just myself, my mum, my dad, my brother. Just we'd be sitting there in silence and whatever else, and then I arrived back home and the house was full. It's full of family, full of friends, and that was again a huge moment for me, and realizing, as I said, that the power of love and the power of support. And it was overwhelming for me because it's something I didn't expect at the time. But I had my auntie there who has always been my sort of go-to in difficult situations ever since I've been a child. And I went to my bedroom and I broke down and started crying. And that was a huge release in terms of what had just happened only a couple of hours earlier. And then a couple of days later, I was at the funeral, and then there was more tears and more of a release there. But after that, the tears dried up, and that happened on a Thursday. And by Monday, my parents and this guard was looking at me, and they're wondering what to do with me now, because a week earlier I was starting college, starting a new life. Now this happened, and do we keep him at home? Do we send him away again? And I was told the best thing for me to do is to get back to living a normal life and to get back to college. And obviously, this was a decision that they felt was best for me, but I did feel this incredible sense of loneliness and isolation that came from it.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. And you go back to college, and back there were people who didn't even know that this happened. And that offered me a sense of escapism from the reality of the situation. And I could go up there and I could nearly pretend it didn't happen, although I was carrying this incredible pain with me.
No one to confide in even.
No one really to confide in, and even if there was, they wouldn't get it. I mean, like you're surrounded by 18, 19-year-old lads. Like, your mentality at that age is very different than it is when you're a bit older and you've got a bit more life experience and maybe perhaps some empathy in terms of the struggles and tribulations that men go through. We just wanted to drink and party all the time. So, and that's what I did. And that's where this very aggressive approach to alcohol sort of really took on a new force. And, blackouts on a regular basis, 4 or 5 day drinking binges, sometimes 7 day drinking binges, and just laughing it off and getting on with it, and completely oblivious to the pain until, again, you wake up in A&E one night and a year after it's happened and you still don't question it. You still just, I just drank too much, this happened. So pushed that away for over 10 years before I finally began to open up about it. And I believe, though, that the tears that were expressed in those days and the day off the event was enough to sort of keep me afloat for a few years until I was able to dive into it again. And I did read or heard something that it can take 10 years for such a traumatic experience to actually begin to manifest in your life or begin to come to the surface of your life, where you start to actually work through it. So because it's such a
was that subconsciously fueling the new lifestyle and stuff, like,
I mean, everything was I believe everything was probably fueled by that experience. And the first,
so young as well.
I mean, the first initial belief or thought that I had whenever I seen her in that driver's seat passed away was complete hatred towards myself for what had happened, and that hatred stuck with me for over 10 years until I'd say only till recently I was able to let that go. And as I said, it took that event for me to not only heal from that, but also heal from all the other situations in my life where I was bullied, or where there was like a family breakup when I was younger, and the disconnection I felt there, and just this feeling of anxiety that was always with me from a young age that I didn't even tap into or realize. So it took that experience for me to start working through that, and that began to open the door then for more healing to occur to the point where I've worked through so much now over the last 10 years and continue to do so in different ways. And you talk about tears, and I went to a psilocybin retreat, a mushroom retreat about 2 years ago now, for the first one I did. What the belief that talk therapy has sort of brought me as far as I can possibly go, and I've hit a ceiling here. But I know there's something else beyond this.
Yeah.
And I felt as though, because I did my research and I looked into it, and I felt as though mushrooms would open up something more. And there was so much that happened, like so many answers and so much awareness that was brought to me in that experience. But the one thing as well was, first of all, an incredible release of laughter was the first thing. And I mean, like belly aching laughing, and like keeled over, like cramps in my stomach, couldn't stop laughing. And, you know, then questioning that, and then, you know, understanding that this was actually a release of so much joy that I had suppressed over the years, because I've been putting on this armor, trying to be tough, trying to be hard, trying to, you know, be this macho guy with whatever sort of persona I was using to protect myself from the pain, mostly the pain from the bullying in the past. And, you know, that's when I started to create the armor. So I can't be vulnerable, can't be seen as weak, can't be seen as soft. I've got to put this strong armor on in order to protect myself from this pain again. So, yeah, and then also the sense of not deserving joy or laughter or play or fun. It all has to be work and grind and hustle. So that was an incredible release. And then sometime later in the experience, absolutely broke down with hysterical crying, you know, and tears. But I remember during those tears, it was like a sense of relief, because
It's like euphoria.
Yeah. So just the sense of relief to be able to let that go. And so a lot has happened over.
Did you find that you had yourself within a prison of yourself, like, for years? Did you feel like you were imprisoning yourself with those emotions? I know that might be fairly heavy to say, but it's considering the steps that were taken afterwards, like you said, to suppress any type of you know, emotion that would clearly help, you know, opening up to somebody, which you didn't have because you were isolated. The bullying that came before that, you know, then that turns into something that you either put inside as well, like, and you're slowly building up this, like, armor, like you mentioned before, where you're imprisoned behind this armor just of pure, either, I don't know if it's hatred, or is it protective armor? Or is it both even?
Yeah. It's, the armor becomes quite heavy. You know, it's as I mentioned, the first thing that I would have felt is complete self-hatred for what happened in the accident. But it wasn't the accident that all of a sudden injected this self-hatred. The self-hatred was always there. The accident simply amplified it. And
was that bullying? That self-hatred stems from the bullying.
Yeah, it was probably that, and maybe even I would have subconsciously identified what it was that caused the pain and the attack from these bullies, what it was about me that actually created this experience. And, you know, now I can say that wasn't true. This was again my interpretation. This was my narrative that was playing out. Because when it happened, I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. Why are they picking on me? Why are they not picking on anyone else? Like, what's so bad or what's so wrong about me? And looking back, I would say that one of the biggest things that drew them in, I'd say, was my sensitivity and being quite a shy and reserved kid, and probably feeling a lot more comfortable around adults than I was around other kids, because I was able to maybe trust and understand adults a bit more because I was exposed to many adults from that young age. As I said, living next door to my grandparents, it was all adults there, and I was the only kid with sometimes probably in total maybe 7, 8 adults at a time, with other uncles and aunties coming and going in the house. So I felt very comfortable there. And then you're sort of thrown into a very different dynamic where you're surrounded by unpredictable children. And then at that age as well, you're still, I believe, being your true authentic self. And it's only then through the opinions and through the perhaps the filtration of the interactions you have with others, other kids, that you begin to identify that, okay, this part of me is not going to be accepted by the crowd. This part of me actually causes an aggressive reaction. This part of me is going to cause pain or cause an attack. I can't show this, and I can't be this person. And then you start to...
So you're handpicking things that you can put in your basket and all the other things away.
Yeah, so...
Do you find that they disintegrate part of your persona?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, on reflection, I created a whole new persona, a different persona. I created another version of me that wasn't real. And then playing out the story of being tough and being a hard man and putting on this, it wasn't confidence because I wasn't able to back up confidence. So it was cockiness and it's bravado and trying to play that out, and also failing on that too, because, you know, the cracks begin to show after a while. But then, you know, you like anything, like any act, you refine it and you can adjust it, and you can, you know, watch your Rocky movies and you can watch your Stallones and you can watch your Schwarzeneggers and you go, okay, what is it about them that I can maybe take? And like, he's getting all this respect and he's getting all this love from people. And I think, okay, what is it? And so you're watching other people and again, subconsciously taking these parts on board. So I was taking all that on board, and I did take on martial arts and took on kickboxing and those kind of things too. And again, this was a way for me to maybe prove to myself that I wasn't so weak and so soft and so vulnerable and so sensitive, and, you know, be this other persona that then eventually takes over your life, and that's all you are, and you forget your true self until eventually, as I said, the cracks begin to appear and things begin to happen that expose your vulnerabilities and expose the sensitivity, like losing parts of your identity, like losing your job, like breaking down and like a breakdown in a relationship. When I ran away initially, I called it running away because it was after my daughter was born. Like, I was in a state of complete vulnerability, and I was ultimately pleading with her to take me back.
I was going to ask that, like, with everything that's going on and trying to get acceptance from other people, how do you actually give yourself to somebody else romantically, like, when you're not fully there yourself? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's been a turbulent road between myself and herself, but she stood by my side, maybe because she has been able to identify something more in me that I haven't been able to see. And only recently it's come to fruition. Only recently I've been able to completely let go of this act or this persona. Because even if you look back at, I'd say even if you look back at videos on my Instagram or Reels a year or certainly 2 years ago, you're seeing something different there, and you're sensing a certain energy there that's a bit more tough or masculine, and it's not so perhaps authentic or genuine. Whereas now, again, from what I can see anyway, now it's a bit more balanced, I would say. There's a little bit of, you know, perhaps toughness there, or there's a little bit of hardship there. There's a little bit of difficult truths, but it's merged with, you know, love and you know, genuine care for other men, especially. So
family and kids will do that to you.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I mean, the kids are certainly a brilliant reflection of ourselves, and, you know, I have this conversation with men all the time who have children, and I say, you know what, like, you're looking at your 3-year-old son there, you're looking at your 3-year-old self, and
they'll tell you exactly who you are,
and they'll tell you they'll call out your bullshit, and as much as a good woman will too, but
true.
There's only a certain type of man, or perhaps only a man at a certain place in his life, who's able to receive that that feedback and use it in order to improve himself. we become so protective and defensive over those type of words and that type of energy from a woman, because that exposes our true identity.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, you're not showing up here. You're not receiving me. You're not going all in. You're not opening up.
Get on the daily.
Yeah. So it's like, so it's more of it's been a big lesson this year, especially, is we are so quick to project it upon others, in the sense of, as I said, you're seeing a reflection of yourself in your children, or in your friends, or especially in your wife or your partner, and she's reflecting something back to you, or she's bringing something up for you. But it's very difficult to face ourselves in the mirror and identify that, oh fuck, okay, there's something here that I've been hiding. There's something here that I still feel a sense of shame and feel a sense of pain.
You're talking about the hiding there, because like if anybody turned onto your Instagram page and saw your physique, you project this healthy lifestyle, which then in turn, if you've seen anybody else's Instagram pages where they're just promoting, say high roxes and the working out, like, and that's the be all and end all, and that is going to get you, to a level where your life is going to be great. At what point?
Muscle is a mask.
Yeah, exactly. At what point do you realize that muscles aren't the only answer? That there has to be mental strength with physical strength.
I believe that, I believe for most men, at least, they have to go through these processes to understand. And if I was to sit here and say, you know what, you're working out for the wrong reasons, you're working out because of an insecurity, you're working out because you believe that when you look a certain way, you're going to be valued in a certain way. And most men will reject that immediately, such as I would have rejected it, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And I say, no, I'm working out because I want to feel strong, I want to feel healthy. And because, again, we don't want to identify with the truth, because the truth is painful. The truth will always piss you off before it sets you free. And I broke myself down literally with the training, especially back in 2015, probably 2013 to 2016, 17, where I took on CrossFit and absolutely annihilated myself several times a week in that gym, and topping the leaderboard. And again, here's a sense of validation, here's performance-based esteem, here's I'm good enough now, I'm valued, I'm getting attention and praise from others here in the gym, I'm good enough, yeah, feed me this, and feeding this sense of validation and praise. But it's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. It just empties out immediately. And I'm back again the next day trying to get the same thing. And then, one day deadlifting in the gym, and I managed to pull up a massive weight. And then somebody mentioned powerlifting. I go, all right, that's where I need to go next. This is where I'm going to get my next kick. And then that was a journey of maybe 2 years of powerlifting and competition after competition, and then being quite successful in them and winning a few national championships, and then eventually moving on to worlds and a European championship as well. Got the trophies, and then you realize nothing's fucking changed.
After all that.
Yeah, nothing's changed. I mean, I'm still waking up with the same sense of emptiness. It's something I mentioned actually quite recently to somebody, was that in those times where there would be accidental silence, because I wouldn't be intentionally sitting in silence because it would terrify me, accidental silence, or just moments of solitude, I would get this feeling as though there was something empty in here. There was like a void. I could never really understand it. But then realizing that I was using all these things to fill this void, and as I said, it's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes, just empties.
I thought you were going to say you'd pull out the trophy and just look at it and just remind yourself.
Yeah, no.
Pull it out of your pocket.
I'm putting the trophies away, because even the trophies. I was going
to say that, do you have them on show?
I do have them on show at the moment, but I was actually thinking about it a couple of days ago. It's like, I'm.
And is that for you? Because I've got awards through my company as well.
Yeah.
You get them, you put them up, and you nearly get them for other people to look at rather than for me.
Yeah,
I don't like, you know.
Yeah, you don't notice it
Yeah,
anymore,
don't
but it's
notice
like
it.
somebody walks into your house and you go,
Yeah.
oh, well, yeah, this guy is somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you want a part of the competition? Yeah.
That's that
yeah.
validation again, isn't it? It's just like putting on show
it
slightly,
is.
you know.
But
Yeah.
is it a reminder as well, though?
Yeah, that's probably the challenge in the question. But to me, like a massive thing for most of us men is to be able to let go of the past. And I have this conversation with probably 2 men a day on average, like on our calls, about letting go of the past. Because if you're in the past, it's affecting your present, and you're not able to show up as your true, loving, strong, resilient self because you're living in the past, which means you're living still in a state of fear or shame that's linked to mistakes or perhaps instances that happened in the past that are outside your control that cause some pain. And so there's letting go of the past in the sense of letting go of the pain and shame that's attached to memories. But then there's also, I believe, a necessity to let go of the past in the sense of, you know, successes and achievements and these perhaps experiences of receiving validation or praise through your accomplishments that you need to let go of too, because if you're holding on to that, then you're holding on to, oh yeah, but I am good enough because I won this, and you know, but I know I've failed here today, but I'm still good enough because I've got that trophy in the so
yeah.
Do you have to let go of the past, but at the same time celebrate its scars or celebrate its damage?
Yeah, well, it's using the past as a lesson, not
you're not
as
living it.
not as a prison cell.
Yeah.
So which a lot of people do is it just becomes another.
You don't let it dictate the life you're living now.
Yeah,
but just use it as a.
But again, subconsciously, so many of us do.
At the same time, there's always worse things you could be doing than powerlifting.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? Like if it wasn't that, what would it have been? There's always going to be something. Probably
there's also identifying the energy that was behind the powerlifting, which was it became another escapism for me, and it became another way actually for me to suffer physical pain to numb out the emotional pain.
Yeah,
and it's perhaps at the time it's maybe used as a buffer between the emotional pain and the unwillingness to go through it or the unwillingness to look at it. So, and then using the accomplishments and achievements to sort of bring me up momentarily and then to come back down and then, okay, got to chase the next thing. But like amongst all of that, I was still addicted to porn. I was still quite lonely and miserable in my life. I wasn't working through any of these things on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's what I mean earlier in terms of like sometimes you just got to go through that to realize that that's not the answer. And then you get to this stage then when, as I said, I ultimately like reached the top of the mountain with the powerlifting, and then I'm at the top of the mountain going,
where do I go now?
Shit, this is not where I want to be at all, and this hasn't actually brought me to where I truly want to be or how I want to feel.
You had your Stallone moment in Rocky. You got to the top of the steps.
Yeah, Drago, yeah. Oh yeah, the steps, and
you realise there's steps down on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go back down again, and then go up another mountain. Yeah. But then it was shortly after that I started therapy, and you sort of take these things away in the sense of trying to reach the next thing or trying to chase the next sense of validation or love or escapism. And I just remember one day in the kitchen and had this overwhelming sense of guilt that came over me, which I wasn't able to explain at the time, but then understood that it came from the accident. And it was guilt that was so associated with me feeling as though I had taken that young boy's mother away in that accident. And that was the turning point for me to actually finally make a call to a counselor and start speaking. And that is the value of actually intentionally creating a little bit of stillness in your life or silence in your life to just pay attention to where you're at. Because that was a period where I was a stay-at-home dad and I did have time in my hands, and Ariana would go for a nap or go for a sleep, and then again there was accidental silence, and then all of a sudden this thing started to grip me tighter and tighter and tighter. And then I realized that I needed help at that point. Yeah. And that was
And there's a lot of men out there that maybe don't understand their own emotions and thoughts that are going through their mind, that might miss that opportunity to actually, make that call at that moment. So you're quite lucky to have that sort of control over your own mind at the time to take that step at that moment.
yeah.
Because, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't get that opportunity, which and they think it can consume them and
Don't take that
don't
opportunity.
take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or don't deserve it. We'd rather stick to the story that we know than to move towards something we don't. That's a massive barrier for so many men. And even today, I had a conversation with a guy who, did something a decade ago that is still affecting his life today. And one of the practices that I've given him is to, you got to write that guy a letter and just let that go. But he's apprehensive, or he's procrastinating over the letter, because he comes to me and he says, well, yeah, but I feel like it has to be perfect. I have to say the right words. Like, no. You're just avoiding it here, because there's a part of you that knows once you write that letter, you're actually going to let go of this familiar feeling or this familiar belief that has been part of your life for so long.
Like a dark passenger, isn't it?
And and you're going to step into something you don't know. But again,
it's like a friend nearly that you've just become accustomed to, that you carry with you for so long, or some sort of entity that you carry with you.
Yeah, it's a part of
you.
You
find it very hard to let it go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a
You
leech.
become attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that obviously you're mentioning there, talking to these men, that's through the modern warrior, yeah?
Yeah, that would be the one-to-one conversations and the one-to-one work that I do with the men.
Where did that concept of the modern warrior come from? Did that come out the other side of the therapy? Finding yourself.
The modern warrior is probably created maybe 9 years ago, something like that there. So I was still going through therapy. But the modern warrior concept sort of came because the idea of being a warrior in today's world is a little bit different than what it would have been centuries ago. We're not out there fighting battles or wars, or not always having to be this perhaps aggressive, assertive leader all the time. And it has to be balanced out with a bit of vulnerability and a little bit of gentleness and a little bit of love sometimes as well. And I believe that's the modern man today. It's finding that balance of when to switch on this more softer energy where you're showing up for your children, you're loving, you're caring, and you're listening, you're being attentive even to your partner. You're there, you're present. And then of course you got to switch on the assertiveness, you got to switch on the leadership skills, you got to switch on the work ethic and get out there and get after it and protect and provide. So yeah, perhaps it's all about developing a deeper sense of awareness about what it means to be a man in today's world. And as I said, so many men have been indoctrinated into work and grind and hustle and push and become more, become better. Whereas at the end of the day, man, it's not about becoming, it's about remembering who you are before the world told you who you're supposed to be. And
is it done through like a retreat type setup, or? So
the one-to-one stuff would be conversations with men. Usually would have 2 calls a week with the men that I work with, and then give them some action points in between, along with accountability support when and if they need it in between. And then the retreats then would be something I would run on at the moment it's more or less a monthly basis, taking a break now for a month or 2 during the summer, but it's 1 a month. And that's really something I'm at the moment, I believe, building onto something bigger maybe in a year or 2. Not with any grand expectation or anything. It's for a lot of the things that I've started and things that I'm doing, I just took a chance. Like when I started the personal training, I was jobless, and to me I wasn't able to find a job. So I thought, why not create a job? What job are you going to create? Well, maybe think about something that you're good at and something that you enjoy. I said, well, I have a personal training degree, and I enjoy working with people. I enjoy helping people out. Okay, let's merge those 2 things together and start a personal training business. And just took a chance, and that just began to build and build.
Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Or is that just a fickle word nowadays?
Yeah, I don't use that word ever. So, nah, I wouldn't. I don't know. A chancer.
Did it surprise you the people that actually came to you then?
Through the
As in the personalities, like do you get surprised about
the men that reach out?
the men that reach out and contact you looking for
There's
help?
nothing really that surprises me anymore. Perhaps one of the most pivotal transformations was at the beginning. And, you know, when I started the mentorship or, you know, this deeper work with men, that was a very small percentage of the overall work I was doing. Like most things, you sort of have a main gig and then you start a side hustle perhaps, and then the side hustle becomes the main gig, and you eventually move away from what you were doing before. And that's the way it's been for me. Not that was done intentionally either. And so I had this one guy that reached out to me, and he was drinking every single day. And I can mention his name and I can speak about him because he's already shared his story with me through videos and whatever else. But this guy was drinking himself to death. His missus had walked out on him. His twin boys were gone out of his life. And when he was with his twin boys, he was either drunk or hungover and not being a father, not being present. And I asked him a question on the call, which again he's mentioned on a video before, and asked him, look, Don, 2 years from now, where are you? And he said, well, I'm either dead or I'm very, very ill. And I think just simply asking that question gave him a very hard reality check in terms of where he was heading in his life. And I believe from that conversation it was the last drink that he had. He hasn't drank now since we first spoke, which is probably, 6-7 years ago now. And he's managed to put his whole life back together, and he's actually written a story about his life. And that was the first time that I probably identified that there's something in this. And, you know, if this guy who was drinking himself to death can turn his life around through maybe 6 months of working with me, then, you know, okay, there's an opportunity here for more men to reach out, and there's something here that I can actually help them with. So that just began to grow from there.
And you don't do that unless you've been through it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
but that was also the turning point, because I mentioned porn addiction, and the porn addiction got so severe that I was in these webcam chat rooms, which you probably heard about on a podcast or my videos before, because I've spoken about it many times. And then 2 years after sort of overcoming parts of the addiction, I wouldn't say completely, all of a sudden the past creeps up and it kicks you in the ass pretty hard. And then I find out that there's footage of me in these webcam chat rooms being circulated on the internet, being circulated around my hometown at a time where it was probably, at the time, I was in a pretty good place given everything that was happening. Relationship was in a decent place. Business was booming. You know, probably one of the most sought after personal trainers in the town at the time. And then all of a sudden, this comes along and absolutely crushed me at the time, but it had to crush me because it had to happen to destroy a part of my identity and break that part down so I could build something else. And that's when that's really when I started to flip it towards working with men on a deeper level, because I understood at that point that it was one of two choices. I said, okay, I can use this pain and this experience for the rest of my life and allow it to affect me in a negative way, or I could take this experience and actually use it to help others. And I knew for a fact that I wasn't the only guy out there struggling with porn addiction and whatever else. So then I started just to speak about it on my videos and started to open up about my struggles, and, you know, the barriers dissolve for men who are going through something similar.
And that wasn't through somebody literally looking to extort you in any way. That was literally just to try and break you.
I don't know what it was. I don't know who it was or how it came to be.
Because you hear these stories about nowadays where, like, you know, there's a man and they're even boys, teenagers and all that, they're getting into porn, these webcams, and they're getting, you know, people trying to extortionate money out of them through, you know, images and everything.
I've had 3 or 4 phone calls.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Of men that would know of my story, and they're in a state of absolute panic because they go, oh, shit, man, I was sending this who I thought was a woman my photos, and she's looking for €1,000, or she's going to send these photos and this footage to my family and friends. I'm like, man, don't do anything. You do fucking nothing, because like, what are they to gain? What are they to gain if you give this footage out? Like, they're not going to gain any money from me. So they're using fear as a method to
It's like a scam call. They just move to the next one.
yeah, exactly, until they.
It's only energy they're wasting. Yeah.
But I, it's not spoken about, but I believe that this is happening a lot more frequently than we know. And if I was in that position, and I again, I know this place because I was exposed in such a way, different circumstance, but like, if I didn't have, I was working with a mentor at the time, Phil Graham in Belfast, and he was a business mentor, but he very quickly turned into a personal mentor, because at the time he was the only person I could reach out to. And I was so shameful about this that the only way I could bring myself to communicate to him was to send him an email. I say, I've had this porn addiction and something's happened here. And then he calls me up, and then he helps me through it for a few days and helped me through it. But if I didn't have that, I don't know which way it would have turned or what would have happened. So there's men out there that feel like they don't have someone there to perhaps guide them or help them through it. It is a very fearful, exposing prospect in their life, where they're potentially, like, some of these guys that do this are actually in relationships as well. And that's a conversation I have with them afterwards. I say, well, look, you know, perhaps you need to have a conversation with her and have a conversation with yourself in terms of why you're doing this in the first place. Yeah. What is it that you're lacking in your relationship that you're trying to find over here? Anyway, that's aside the point. So they feel so ashamed about it that they keep it secret. And of course, that shame can cause other things to happen that, you know, could mean the end for some of these guys. So I would encourage anyone that sort of feels as though they've been exposed, or if that does happen to you, man, it's okay. I mean,
where can the likes of the people who are listening to this now, who want to follow maybe in the footsteps of some of the men who've contacted you, where can they find your Modern Warrior page?
Yeah, well, Instagram is where I'm most active, and probably TikTok. You know, whatever I'm posting on TikTok, posting on Instagram, and so it goes both, and it's Gavin Meenan everywhere. So it's Gavin Meenan on all those platforms.
And would you say, if they were to reach out to you, just to give anybody a bit of an idea, would they have to provide, say, some sort of details to you first, or is it just...
You just send me a message, or you send me a DM, and I'll get back to you. You know, so that there is a little bio on my Instagram page and at the bottom just says, send me the word results, and I'll get back to you, because I get a load of different different DMs. But if there's one there with the results, then I know it's coming from somebody that actually wants to speak to me or is interested in receiving some help. So I always give those messages first priority. So if you send the word results, then I'll be pretty quick to reply, and then just go from there. And if it feels like a good fit, then.
Well, what are you first? Are you entrepreneur? Are you influencer?
Why does it matter?
Are you PT? Are you a family man? Or what comes first for you?
I'm everything and I'm nothing at the same time. Yeah.
Superman.
Nah, I'm not Superman. No, that's definitely not. I remember one of my clients, a female client, some years ago. She said, "You're a Superman, but you're not Superman." So yeah, just identifying.
Every Superman has kryptonite as well.
Yeah, that's true too, isn't it? Yeah. So
bringing up a lot of movie references tonight.
yeah. So
Universal Studios.
Stallone's and there you go, man. Yeah, manifesting it.
Well, what's next?
I don't know. I actually, to answer that question, I don't give that much thought, because I'm very careful to not allow the ego to dictate the terms here, in terms of, oh, look at me, I'm an entrepreneur, or look at me, you know.
Do you think there has to be some sort of sense of flow in life rather than
a label?
the label. Just
Yeah,
just let it flow. Just be.
Not a fan. Yeah, exactly. And that's how long do we have? That's another can of worms. But the being is actually something that I'm practicing a lot more of in recent times, is just allowing things to unfold naturally instead of forcing it, because forcing creates a resistance, and resistance manifests itself with true stress and pressure. And of course, stress and pressure over time is just going to break it down. And, trusting that if you just continue to show up as the best that you can be every single day, things will unfold naturally in the way it's meant to be. And you're given what you need, and it's not always what you want, such as, that exposure to the webcam chat rooms. That wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed for me to finally quit this bullshit of trying to be somebody I wasn't, and trying to be this persona of whatever, being the top PT or being this top guy, and allowing people to see me as just another human being who still has shit and has flaws and that has difficulties to work through. So yeah, it's what you need, and it's not always what you wanted, but it's what you need, because there's something in this that requires attention in order for you to learn something more about yourself, in order to expand and grow in your own way, which is, again, relative to the reflections that we see through other people. Your wife might, or your partner might say something to you that you don't want to hear, but it's what you need to hear.
Never a truer word spoke.
What's life without hurdles,
Yeah, exactly. So just don't trip over them.
What's the most important question of the lot?
Really appreciated you coming in, but our Spotify playlist, you get to pick a song and it goes on the playlist. What would your song of choice be?
Oh, man.
It's the toughest one of the lot, isn't it?
Yeah, again, if you'd asked me this a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, I'd have a very different answer with this question.
Don't say Boyzone or something. I can't. That's too much.
I won't say Boyzone, but it's. I'm saying this, but I can already feel some of the men cringing when I say it. So it's because it's one I've been listening to actually quite recently. What do I give that one? Are you going to play this song on your Spotify?
We put it up on but it goes onto the Spotify playlist, so I play it. It goes onto Instagram, so we share it with Instagram as well.
Actually, I'm going to give you a song that's probably not very well known. That's what I'm going to do. And it's Given to Fly by Pearl Jam.
Nice.
And when you play it, read the lyrics.
Yeah.
Read the lyrics. Yeah. There's a deep meaning behind the lyrics and behind that song. So Given to Fly.
We're looking forward to that one now.
They're the ones we like.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gavin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise, man.
Legend.
Thanks for taking the journey, because it's not lost on us. It really isn't. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you, man, for holding this incredible space and for what you do. So
Brilliant.
keep showing up.
Cheers, Gavin.
Safe travels, man.
All right. Cheers.
Take it easy.
All right. Nice. Thank you.
Very much. Season 7, episode 3 in the can. What an episode.
Yeah, really enjoyed that one. Big shout out to our two guests this evening. We had Gavin and Neo sharing their stories, which were both informational and inspirational. So yeah, really good one.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. And like we always say, I want to say a massive thank you to our sponsor, Robust Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company, for allowing us to record in their HQ in Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Snickers Workwear Ireland and Velocity Pro Gear for their continued support.
Yeah, if you liked what you heard, make sure you head over to wherever you get your podcast. Give us a like and a follow to be notified when the next one drops. Take it easy.
Talk to you on the next one.